I'm here with senior editor of Beadwork magazine, Jean Campbell. Welcome, Jean.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
Yeah, and today we're talking about embellishment, and you have 3 ideas for how to embellish using different stitches.
Well, often when you make a piece of beadwork, there's like an exposed thread on the edge, and so you want to kind of cover it up and doll it up and make it look prettier.
Oh, definitely.
So I've got 3 different ways to do that.
Okay.
The first I want to show you is a simple Picot edging.
I love Picot. It's kind of lacy.
Yeah,
looking.
it adds a nice little triangles to the edge. So I've just got these little samples that I just want to show you. I've started my Picot edging. This is what it looks like, but I want to show you how it's done. You're going to pick up 3, I'm just using size 11s here. Let me get set up here. I'm going to come out the edge.
And you could add this to any type of stitch, right? Or many,
well, you know,
or
if you've got
what are the most common?
Right. And if you've got a straight edge, so this is for like brick stitch or peyote stitch.
Okay.
So I'm coming out the edge. I'm going to pick out 3 size 11s, and I'm using size 11s because my base is size 11s, but you can use any type of bead, and you could even use a seed bead, a bicone, a seed bead, mix it up a little.
Sure.
But I'll just show you the basic here. And come down through that next bead along the edge to make your stitch. It's
So
just
it kind of
that
loops into place.
Right. So this is just a nice edging along
The top row,
right,
or
the top
outer
row.
edge of something.
But what's really cool is you can build off of this. So I'm going to weave up into that top bead to make.
So you just get your thread path back to the one that's at the outermost point?
If you're following directions like in a magazine, this is called weave through beads.
Okay.
So
it's not just a clever name.
No, it's not. So I'm just going to take a size, a 2 millimeter round crystal, and just pass through that next one to make a sweet little
Nice.
thing inside. So I could just keep moving across like this, and that creates a nice look like that.
That looks really pretty. I like how you combine the crystals with it too.
Yeah, it makes a little sparkle.
Definitely.
So the next edging I want to show you is just a simple whip stitch edging. Now this is something that sewers are familiar with. With this one, I'm again working on a peyote stitch sample. You could do brick stitch. We just want a straight edge, and there's got to be thread exposed on the edge. So I'm going to pick up a seed bead, and I'm just going to I'm not passing through any beads. I'm just looping my needle underneath that exposed thread there and pulling tight.
So when sewers do this kind of effect, it would be like over the exposed edge of a blanket or something like
Right,
that.
it's like a binding stitch. So I'm going to do that again to show you what that looks like. See, it just pops the bead right up there.
Right.
Now, here, I'll do this last one just to show you.
And you could combine different sizes of beads with this too for different effects.
You could do size 8s off the edge here to make a bigger, chunkier edge. But what's neat here, again, you can embellish the embellishment by adding beads between. I'm just going to pop a 15 in between here.
Yeah, so when you're using 15s, can you give us any tips about, they're so tiny. You know, I think one thing that I learned was when you pour them onto the bead mat, the holes face up, so you can just pick them up with your needle.
Well, you should always pick up your beads with your needle. It just saves so much time. But if you're, this is, I'm using a sharp needle here, a size 11, but if you're having a hard time passing back through 15s, go ahead and change the needle size to a 12, and that'll really help a lot. Yeah, you can also try using a smaller thread, a thinner thread.
Yeah.
So that's basically, what we're doing here, and I want to show you how this looks as an edging. Wouldn't that be cute, just as a bracelet itself?
Definitely. You could, and strap bracelets are so popular.
And so easy.
Yeah, so
So
you could
easy.
whip this together in an evening and wear it the next day.
You could.
Right?
The third stitch I want to show you is a brick stitch edging. And this is a real traditional stitch done on a lot of Native American beadwork.
Oh,
But again, we're going to start with, I've got a peyote stitch or brick stitch sample. And again, we need exposed thread on the edges. And I started this so you could kind of see what it looks like. When you start, you're going to start with 3 beads. And then now, since I've got this established, I'm going to pick up 2 beads and loop underneath that exposed thread again, pull tight, and then pass up, back up through, so I'm coming in a different direction,
through the last one.
the last one, and see how that just pops up really
Yeah.
nicely. I'll make that last stitch, picking up 2, looping under.
Yeah, so you're always looping under the thread rather than through the last row of beads.
And I don't pass through any of the beads on the base itself. I'm just taking care of that edging there.
Yeah.
And again, we can embellish the embellishment. You see, these are just sticking up here, ready for us to play with. And I'll use blue again and just do peyote stitch right between them.
Oh, so then even your edging is becoming another, I guess you're making a secondary edging on top of it.
Right, it's like I said, embellishing the embellishment. So,
Great.
and that, I've got this finished on these samples over here.
Yeah, so you can see where that outside row is standing up.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your finished samples. Do you want to start with these pendants?
Sure, I just want to, Melinda Barta was so nice and lent me all kinds of pieces to show off.
They're beautiful.
She's such a
Love
wonderful
the colors,
designer.
too.
So these pieces here at the end, the bezels show a whip stitch edging, the hanging loops. The next piece shows a Picot edging around, makes kind of a star shape. So those are just
So
circles.
it kind of mimics the star that's in the bracelet.
Yeah. Then the next piece, that's again just a simple embellishment between picots.
These are just beautiful. And what about these? Are these both brick stitch?
Those are circular peyote stitch, but just with a
Embellished.
modified picots on them.
Oh, there are so many ways to embellish your beadwork. Thank you, Jean.
Thanks for having me.